Alice Pleasance Little was 10 years old. She was the middle sister of the three daughters of Henry Little, who was the dean of Christ Church of Oxford. Now, Charles Dodgson, who was also known as Lewis Carroll, taught math there and was a family friend. One day, he took the three girls on a boating trip and he told them the story of Alice's adventures underground. Alice asked him to write it down, and eventually he did. He gave her the manuscript. And this is Alice's Adventures Underground. And he wrote on it, "A Christmas gift to a dear child in memory of a summer day." But Alice Little did not remain 10. She lived to the age of 82. She married Roger Hargreaves, a cricket star and a man of wealth. She became the sparkling Lady Hargreaves. She didn't always sparkle. She had 3 sons, 2 of whom were killed in the First World War. And after her husband's death, she found herself in financial difficulties, and she had to sell the manuscript of Alice's Adventures Underground in order to be able to afford to heat her house. So the question is, what happened to the woman who had once been little Alice? Well, in 1932, when she was 80 years old, she opened an exhibition at the Bumpus bookstore in London. The other famous person at the bookstore that day was Peter Llewellyn Davies, who was 35 years old, and he was one of the 5 Davis brothers who'd once been the inspiration for Peter Pan, the boy who never grew up. So there they were, Alice in Wonderland, out of Wonderland, and Peter Pan of Never Never Land, out of Never Never Land. John Logan, a contemporary playwright, wrote a play about that meeting. Peter and Alice, which is the play, tells us what the adult Peter and the adult Alice might have said to each other when they met on June 26, 1932. The adult Alice looked back upon Wonderland with affection and with longing. The adult Peter looked back upon Neverland with sadness and regret. In the first production of the play, the role of Alice, 80-year-old Alice, was played by Judi Dench, and the role of the 35-year-old Peter was played by Ben Whishaw. And I was lucky enough to see the play in London in 2013. And for this filmed play at Virginia Tech in 2021, I want to share with you some of the experience of Peter and Alice. In the play, the adult Alice wonders, am I the Alice people want to know? Or is it just possible they would rather remember the little blonde girl in the dress, eternally inquisitive, impossibly bold, never changing, and never growing old? And she comments, when I look over my days, I feel that I was given a gift by Mr. Dodgson. Out of everyone, there's only one Alice. He made me special. And that uniqueness has given me a lifetime of people looking back at me with a smile, remembering their better selves when they were new and life was before them. And all they needed to find their way through was a little courage, a little imagination, and a bottle labeled "Drink Me." In art, you see, she'd been preserved. She was eternally young, and that was Charles Dodgson's plan. He'd spoken to her about that very fact on a day when he took photographs of her. And he'd said, in the place called adulthood, there's precious few golden afternoons. The golden afternoons have gone away to make room for other things like business and housekeeping and wanting everyone to be the same. There are no Mad Hatters and there are no Cheshire Cats. That's the place called adulthood. I'm there now. You'll be there soon enough. But here and now, in this room and on the glass plate and in the story I'm writing, you'll never be there, and you'll never be hurt, and you'll never be heartsick, and you'll never be alone. 70 years later, Alice defends the permanence of the child who was Alice. She tells Peter, in 100 years, no one will ever remember Alice Little, and no one will ever forget Alice in Wonderland. Now you tell me, who's more real? Well, Peter Davis replies, Mrs. Hargreaves, we can't live in a fantasy. reality may be hard, but it's all we have. And he's, of course, right. Reality is all we have. Reality is what we have. But Alice wants the reality of history and also the reality of art. And she says, shall I tell you about reality, young man? When my son Alan was killed in the war, and my son Rex was killed in the war, I thought I could not know more suffering. My husband did not recover from the shock, honestly. He did not understand where his sons had gone. He got very old, and I with him. He died 6 years ago, my gallant Mr. Hargreaves, after 46 years of marriage. And if I sit there in that room at the top of the house and I think about my life, and if I shut my eyes from time to time and imagine being warm in the summer, and I hear the bees buzzing, and for a moment I truly am Alice in Wonderland, do you have the heart to tell me I'm not? I can be the lonely old woman in the drafty room, or I can be Alice in Wonderland. I choose Alice. Now, without forgetting or denying everything that she's experienced, she chooses to remember a better self when everything was new and she was inquisitive and bold. She asks Peter to join her in the ideal childhoods created by the artists they knew. She's appealing to his memories of courage, of curiosity, of an enduring sense of adventure. Take my hand, Alice says to Peter. We'll go together. I'm a dying old lady, but I know the way to Wonderland. And there, in John Logan's play, ends the story of Alice Little Hargreaves. So, because an artist photographed her, and because an artist wrote her into a story, Alice never grew old. And we all know the way to Wonderland. Thank you.